On behalf of the Nebraska Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, thank you for being here. I am honored today to join state senators and other partners to share why this moment and this legislation matters for victims, families, and communities across our state. In the past year alone, more than 13,000 Nebraskans reached out for help through our statewide network of service-providing organizations. That includes nearly 40,000 shelter nights for victims and their children, more than 28,000 helpline calls they answered, and over 14,000 young people they engaged in violence prevention education across our state. Those numbers represent people seeking safety, support, and a way forward. They also show the scale of need and the importance of strong systems that respond effectively when victims reach out. We know the stakes could not be higher, and today we'll highlight legislative solutions that respond directly to what survivors and the professionals who work with domestic violence are seeing every day. They prioritize prevention, early intervention, accountability, and protection, and let domestic violence victims know that we support them. I am honored now to introduce Amy Sirian from the Nebraska Attorney General's Office.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Sirian, and I'm here today on behalf of the Nebraska Domestic Abuse Death Review Team and the Nebraska Attorney General's Office. In 2025 alone, Nebraska experienced 30 domestic abuse-related victim deaths, including 11 murder-suicides. These deaths devastate families, they traumatize communities, and place lasting strain on service providers and public systems. They're not isolated events, but deeply traumatic events that affect entire communities for years. From July 2022 through 2025, 7 children under the age of 19 were killed due to domestic abuse homicide. 16 children witnessed the violent death of a parent or a caregiver, and 49 children lost a parent, permanently altering the course of their lives. The Domestic Abuse Death Review Team is committed to identifying systemic gaps and evidence-based solutions with the goal of prevention through stronger system responses, improved coordination, and earlier intervention. These bills represent hope that through informed policy and collaboration, we can save lives and prevent future domestic abuse deaths in Nebraska. And now I'd like to turn it over to Senator Bozen.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to everyone who's in any capacity here to support these package of bills, certainly my colleagues, some of whom are still on the floor or in other meetings, but I know are supportive of this legislation. I'm here. I filed 3 bills this session that pertain to supporting victims in one way, shape, or form. That's LB 789, that ensures offenders cannot benefit when they intimidate or silence victims and witnesses. Additionally, LB 1059, which addresses technology-facilitated abuse by prohibiting unlawful tracking and monitoring, a growing tactic used to stalk and control survivors. Together, those 2 bills close a modern loophole that abusers are exploiting to avoid accountability and give victims a better chance to be heard and protected. Additionally, Legislative Bill 1181 creates or strengthens the Victims' Bill of Rights to create a simple but meaningful step to ensure every victim is recognized and able to share their perspective. I now turn it over to Senator Bob Hallstrom.
Thank you, Senator Bozen. My name is Bob Hallstrom from Legislative District 1. My part of the domestic and sexual violence package is LB 876. That bill would allow law enforcement to initiate an immediate 72-hour protective order following a domestic or sexual assault and clarifies the service of final protection orders. The reason that this bill matters is that the hours after an assault takes place are the most significant to the victim or the abused, and this will provide another tool for law enforcement to act early and act strongly in protecting victims. So I look forward and am hopeful that this package of bills will go together and make a significant difference in the lives of people that are victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hallstrom. My name is Senator Bo Ballard. I represent District 21 in the Nebraska Legislature, and I introduced LB 825, which has a hearing today in the Health and Human Services Committee. LB 825 requires a focused domestic violence training for licensed mental health practitioners, responding directly to the recommendation of domestic abuse death review team. By helping professionals recognize warning signs earlier, the bill strengthens prevention and reduces the risk of violence and escalation. Now I'd like to send it off to Senator Prokop for his bill.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm proud to be here with my colleagues working on these really important issues. I've introduced Legislative Bill 1000. That bill would increase the penalties associated with violations of protection orders. As I've spoke with advocates, family members of survivors, and law enforcement, it's really clear that protection orders are only as good as long as they're followed, and we've seen way too many tragedies in this state over the course of the last year when those orders have not been followed. So I think it's really important to move this bill forward, and like I mentioned, I'm really proud to be with my colleagues working on these issues that are critical to protecting people in this state. Thank you. And I think I'm turning it over to Senator Roundtree.
Good afternoon and thank you. I'm State Senator Victor Roundtree from Legislative District 3 down in Bellevue and Papillion. As part of our package, I'm introducing LB 753. LB 753 ensures military protective orders that they are recognized and enforced in Nebraska. This bill closes a dangerous gap that can leave survivors unprotected simply because of jurisdictional boundaries. As a 30-year Air Force member, I participate in a lot of military protection orders. They're administrative on the base, but this now allows those to be considered when we're dealing with protective orders and law enforcement. Everything that we do is for protection of our domestic violence victims. So we appreciate being a part. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Senator Tanya Storr. I represent District 43 and am very proud to be part of this group and this package of bills. And I appreciate the leadership of the Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence on this incredibly important issue. Unfortunately, the bill that I am introducing is LB 818, and let me explain. Unfortunately, the law as it is currently written continues to treat domestic abuse as a less serious crime than so-called straight abuse and hampers law enforcement's ability to hold perpetrators accountable. LB 818 strengthens the penalties for serious and repeat domestic assault and modernizes statutes addressing strangulation and reckless conduct. This bill aligns Nebraska law with the realities law enforcement and prosecutors see every day and targets the most dangerous behaviors earlier. So again, what an important package of legislation, and appreciate the work of all our colleagues and the Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Elliot Bostar, and it's my pleasure to have introduced LB 1131, a bill that redirects an existing tax credit to support organizations providing direct services to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. It ensures critical resources reach the organizations that help survivors find safety, stability, and a path forward. And it is really a pleasure to work with my colleagues behind me who are bringing together this package of legislation to provide necessary legislation forward to protect some of the most vulnerable members of our communities in our state.
Good afternoon. My name is Jane Raybould, Legislative District 28 from the City of Lincoln. And I do want to echo the comments about my colleagues. Together, when we work together, we can establish great policy that protects families in our state of Nebraska against domestic violence. I do want to give a shout out to Senator Bostar. We worked with Senator Bostar last year on his bill LB 78, which really took funding, which is critical for all the programming in our state of Nebraska. He had a piece of legislation that added 7 cents onto the dock stamp for real estate transactions per $1,000. So this year alone, towards the end of 2026, we should have accumulated $833,000. Next year it should be about $1.1 million. These funds go towards the shelters protecting victims of domestic violence. That's one of the key components. And so I'm really proud of Senator Bostar, but I do want to give a shout out. The Tribal Relations Committee, where I'm the chair, we made that our priority bill, and that's what it takes to get things passed. I want to talk about my bill. This year, it's 1088, and this is a continuation of trying to come up with protections for victims of domestic violence, particularly when there is issued a domestic violence restraining order, a domestic violence protection order. 1088, like the domestic violence orders in place right now, require that individual, once a judge issues that order, that you turn in your firearms for your safety and for the safety of the victim. Tragically, the numbers in our state of Nebraska since 2019, 27 out of the 33 homicides involving murder, suicide, 27 of those have been women. 90% on the national level of the perpetrators, 90% are male, the victims, 70% are female. So LB 1088 would require those individuals, right now it's just voluntary that you turn in your firearms once the judge issues that protective order. This requires you do turn them in. We try to make it easier for those individuals to have 3 options that they can turn their firearms in for their own safety and for the safety of their loved ones. The first one is to go to a third party, one of our firearms dealers. They would check them in for you, but they do charge you a storage fee. The second option would be working much like the state of Tennessee did. They have an affidavit form that if you want to turn your firearms into your relative, that relative would sign the affidavit saying, we're going to keep these firearms safe until the judge's order lapses or until the court orders us to release them back to you. The third one is working with law enforcement. Now, some law enforcement, like in the city of Lincoln, they do not have the storage capacities. That doesn't mean that option is not available throughout the state of Nebraska. So the goal is getting firearms out of those individuals that are required now to turn them in to per the judge's order. So I just want to, again, give a shout out to my colleagues. It's amazing. We're all working together on these issues that are critically important to keeping families safe. Thank you.
I want to thank these senators for their leadership on this issue and, of course, urge the legislature to advance these measures. And I also want to give another heartfelt thank you to the other senators that are standing with us today who have in previous years prioritized and provided leadership towards preventing and ending this violence. We know that domestic violence thrives in silence and also in the gaps in how we respond. The legislation highlighted today will hopefully respond to the realities of what those victims are experiencing and address these gaps through prevention, accountability, and through victim support. This is a larger issue than any one of us or any one bill. So thank you all for being here today, for helping us send a message that we stand with survivors to end domestic violence in our communities, that it will take all of us, and that we can and will do better. Thank you.